All right, we're welcoming back to the KFGO airwaves Cody Christie from Twins Daily. Cody, awesome to hear you on KFGO again.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Well, Cody, last time we spoke, we were kind of excited as well. We were talking about Carlos Correa coming to the Twins, Sonny Gray, Gary Sanchez, Gio Urshela, and you know what? Yesterday, I didn't think we'd have a lot to be excited about, but here we are, and with the Twins making probably one of their biggest trade deadlines in recent memory.
Yeah, I think if there's any lesson to learn with this front office is you need to be patient. I think we've seen that in every off season with under Derek Falvey and Thad Levine. Is their roster isn't finalized until that first pitch of opening day. And same thing with the trade deadline. I think we saw a lot of people get a little impatient because other teams were making moves and acquiring players. And you know what? I think by the time the trade deadline expired yesterday, we see that the product the Twins have now is substantially better than what we had, 48 hours ago.
Along those lines, in your opinion, do you think the Twins have pretty much plugged every hole that they've needed?
Yeah, I mean, if you look um, at a broad view of this roster coming into the trade deadline, there were clear holes on this team. There was a need for multiple relief pitchers. The bullpen this year has been, taken on water that's been hard to get out of the boat, basically. And they needed another starting pitcher that was playoff caliber. If you think of the way the playoffs are set up right now, the Twins, if they win the Central Division, are going to have a three-game series at home, where you need three playoff caliber pitchers. We've seen, what Sonny Gray can do. We've seen what Joe Ryan can do. They needed a third pitcher that was better than the pitchers that they already had on the roster. And if you look at the big moves this team made at the trade deadline, they added two back end bullpen arms and a playoff caliber starter without giving up any of their top five probably position player prospects or any of their top five pitching prospects. So not only did they fill their needs, they weren't giving away a Royce Lewis and Austin Martin, someone of that caliber, to get these players. So I think it was a win-win for the Twins front office for sure.
Definitely. Well, talking about prospects, you're right. I think Twins fans sometimes are criticized and then are like, well, who'd we give up? And then a couple years later, hey, there's that player we gave up, and they're a great major league pitcher sometimes. But I think this trade deadline certainly done pretty well, like you said, getting a lot for maybe a little. So definitely a great, I think, trade deadline for the Twins. Talking about maybe the AL Central, little other quieter teams. White Sox not really making any moves. Obviously, the Royals not really making any moves. Does that say to you, maybe this is the Twins is to win or lose?
I I think if you look at the way the division is set up, that yes, the Twins, the two teams chasing the Twins, the Guardians and the White Sox, only made one move each, and it wasn't anything substantial. They weren't going out and getting Juan Soto, or they weren't going out and getting Frankie Montez. So I think the Twins are setting themselves up that yes, we need to use the players. We filled our holes. We're going to win the division. We're going to get into the playoffs. And we saw this last year. Atlanta, at the trade deadline, was around a 500 team last season. They made a bunch of moves. They filled their holes, and they got hot at the right time going into the postseason, and ended up winning the whole thing. Granted, there are some powerhouse teams in the American League, and I think some of the other teams in the AL Central looked at their flaws and decided, you know what, we're not going to be able to keep up with the Houston Astros. We're not going to be able to keep up with the New York Yankees this year. So why should we try and trade away if those teams are already significantly better than us? But I think the Twins did what they had to do to get themselves ready for the playoffs. And then two of the three players that they acquired are also under team control beyond this season. So they weren't just trading for this season. They're still going to have Jorge Lopez at the back of their bullpen next year. They're still going to have Tyler Mahle in their starting rotation next season. So they're building for now, and they're building for 2023, 2024 even.
Let's talk a tougher conversation. I think with many Twins fans where kind of the front office leaves it till last minute, lots of things come into our brains as fans. Maybe are they giving up and maybe would have moved Carlos Correa? Obviously, yesterday, someone asked that to Derek Falvey and he laughed it off like it was never in question. But, sometimes things like that can happen. It's happened before to teams where a team will be in first place and then just start to sell, and the fans will be, what are you doing? So let's talk about Carlos Correa a little bit. Is there a chance that he will be with us next year? I don't think so, but what are you thinking about that?
I think it was clear from the beginning that unless he was significantly injured this season, that he was going to opt out at the end of the 2022 season. That's how the contract was set up. I think we talked about that the last time you and I talked too, is this was meant to help him bridge from one group representing him to the next. So he wants to get that big contract like Corey Seager got this past off season, and the Twins just aren't going to do that. It's going to take over 10 years, $300 million to sign Carlos Correa. And that's probably just not something that this front office is going to do. That's a lot of money tied to one player for a franchise that's kind of in the middle when it comes to revenue. And if all of your money or a large percentage of your money is tied to one player, if something happens to that one player, all of a sudden now you're struggling to make a competitive team. And so I think what the Twins did at the trade deadline here is they said, you know what, we have Carlos Correa till the end of this season. So we need to make the best of what can be for this season with him. Like you said, him laughing it off, I think that's how this front office felt, is we brought in Carlos Correa to help us win this year. And beyond that, they can't control, but they can control what the team is going to do in 2022.
And another big piece here, obviously, Byron Buxton, the All-Star. It seems that there's some unsettling things going on with maybe his knee still, some lingering things from something happened. I know my friend texted me yesterday and said his ACL, it's gone. It's been gone the whole season. But not like that. But, that's kind of troubling as we push past the trade deadline into some important series and weekends and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I believe he had his knee drained within the last couple days. Again, that's been something that's happened a few times with him this season. If you look at him previously, what would have happened with these injuries is they would have just put him on the injured list. This season, they haven't been doing that. They've been keeping him. They're doing treatment. They're keeping him on the field, whether that means him just DHing, whether that means him getting rest days, whatever it might be. And it seems to be working. I mean, he's having he was an all-star for the first time. At this point, yes, we might see less of him in the second half, but what they need is him to be as close to 100% for the playoffs. We've seen throughout Byron Buxton's professional career that the Twins win a much higher percentage of games when he is in the lineup. He's just that dynamic of a player. From a defensive standpoint, probably being the best defensive center fielder or one of the best defensive center fielders in baseball. And he can impact a lineup just with one swing of the bat too. So I think we might see a little bit less of him down the stretch, especially. I mean, they're going to have quite a few games against the bottom feeders of the AL Central, the Royals, the Tigers, teams like that, and they don't necessarily need him in the lineup against teams like that, especially with how well some of the other younger hitters are doing for the Twins.
We're talking with Cody Christie, Twins Daily. Thanks for joining us here, Cody. And let's talk about like impact players. Who do you think is going to make the most impact here at coming at the end of the season, helping the Twins win? It looks like Jose Miranda has ice in his veins, and he can, he can give you a hit and just really just rally the club. But like, who do you think is going to be that kind of X factor that you can lean on here at the end of the season?
Funny, yeah, you mentioned Jose Miranda, and it sounds like the Twins had multiple other organizations calling about getting Jose Miranda before the trade deadline, and the Twins, I don't know how fast they hung up, but I'm pretty sure it was a quick hang up on their end, as he's just coming off. He was named AL Rookie of the Month for the month of July, with just how well. Just clutch hits and doing what he needs to offensively. We saw this with him as a minor leaguer last year, just destroying the ball at AA and AAA. He had a few bumps in the road early with the Twins, but he's been outstanding for sure. I mean, as far as the guy that should be leading this team down the stretch, we've talked about him a little bit. It's got to be Carlos Correa. I mean, he's got hundreds of at bats in postseason play, has World Series clutch hits, and he's got to be one of those guys that just steps up and leads this team on and off the field. I think Sonny Gray too is really going to be key to be that ace of this pitching staff down the stretch. The Twins have slumped a little here. And so you need a pitcher that can be in that rotation, a veteran pitcher that can step in and stop that losing streak. I think we saw that with previous Twins teams. Someone, like Jose Barrios would be able to do something like that, or even back to Johan Santana. The Twins weren't going to lose on a day Johan Santana was starting for them. And so the Twins need someone in the rotation that can kind of be that streak stopper if they've lost a couple games in a row. Okay, Sonny Gray's on the mound. We're going to win today. And the bats light up a little bit more and give that starting pitcher the boost that he needs to be able to go out there and throw 6-7 innings and get the win.
Cody, Twins Daily, check Cody out on Twitter and follow Twins Daily on Twitter. I know I was refreshing yesterday during the trade deadline. Follow Twins Daily Twins content. Anything else, Cody? Thanks for being on KFGO.
I think we're in for a fun, last couple months of the season here. And the Twins should be putting a good product on the field. So thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Thanks, Cody.